Donald Trump is now the presumptive Republican candidate for this year's presidential election, and he's targeting any voter cohort he can get. This past weekend, the Trump campaign hosted a high-profile fundraiser for LGBT voters. It's an unlikely cohort. Most people would think that gays and lesbians wouldn't be so keen to vote for Donald Trump. After all, many folks consider him the most anti-gay president in US history. But gays and lesbians actually are not such an unlikely cohort for Donald Trump. In 2016, about 15% of LGBT voters voted for Trump over Hillary Clinton. In 2020, that number doubled. 28% of LGBTs voted for Donald Trump. It seems as if, as the gay and lesbian movement is maturing, they're moving away from pure identity politics and now voting for issues such as the economy or foreign policy, topics that impact everybody, not just people who share their sexuality or sexual orientation. The Trump campaign hosted this event this past weekend at Mar-a-Lago. It was a pretty star-packed event. It was highlighted by Melania Trump, who rarely makes appearances. But this is not the first time Melania has shown up for LGBTs. In 2020, she also hosted an event for the Log Cabin Republicans, the highest profile conservative gay group in America. The Mar-a-Lago event this past weekend also included Richard Grenell. Grenell is a former ambassador to Germany who served under Trump. He's the highest ranking out LGBT cabinet member ever, and he now serves Trump, gallivanting around the world promoting his foreign policy agenda. The goal of the event was to encourage LGBT voters to understand that Trump has their best interests in mind. For many LGBTs, this makes sense. Over the past few years, there's been a trend within the LGBT movement to shy away from some of the more extremist elements and policies, particularly issues surrounding those who are transgender. Many LGBTs no longer feel that transgender issues necessarily impact them. They're not necessarily focused on whether folks can compete in college or high school sports according to their gender identity. Many gays and lesbians don't feel comfortable with issues around medical intervention for kids who may identify as transgender. They are actually hewing more towards centrist policies, being more cautious around these issues. And they feel that Republicans might have their best interests in mind. Of course, many on the left feel that this is nonsense. At the end of the day, Trump did not support gay and lesbians during his presidency. In fact, his vice president, Mike Pence, was one of the most vocally anti-gay politicians in history. Trump once even joked that Mike Pence wanted to hang gays and lesbians. So why would gays and lesbians vote for Donald Trump? Biden seems to be the obvious answer. After all, he has been incredibly vocal about supporting LGBT issues. Again, he's been particularly vocal on the transgender issue, going as far to host major transgender events at the White House and meeting with out and high-profile transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Gays and lesbians are not just one group. We're not monolithic. We cover all of the political spectrums. And like Hispanics and Blacks this time around, many gays and lesbians feel that Donald Trump is their best bet. In a sense, you could say it's a true maturation of the LGBT movement, an example of identity politics moving on just identity.